Are you a business or organisation looking to better engage disabled people in an inclusive way through your marketing and comms? If so, then this video could be just what you're looking for. Hello people, I hope you're all keeping well. My name is Ben Andrews. This is Ben Andrews Inc., a channel dedicated to topics and issues relating to disabled people. So if you're into that type of content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. I've recently delivered some workshops looking at how we can engage disabled people in an inclusive way through our marketing and comms, and it's got me thinking about our current approaches, their potential drawbacks and a potentially better way forward, and I wanted to share and explore that in this video. So with that being said, let's get into it. Marketing to disabled people just makes sense. Disabled people make up 22% of the UK's population, are the fastest growing market, and have an annual spending power of 249 billion in the UK alone. And disabled people want to access what you're offering, and many want to do so in an inclusive way alongside disabled and non-disabled family, friends, colleagues and peers. So how do we make our messaging as effective, appealing and efficient as possible to engage disabled people in this way? Well, first let's take a look at our current approaches. The first approach we tend to see when looking to engage disabled people is to use terminology that's hope disabled people identify with. We see this in things like disability swim and disabled friendly showings. This approach is problematic for a number of reasons. When looking to support inclusion, we want disabled and non-disabled people doing things together in an inclusive way, or at least in the same place. So in theory, marketing inclusively enables us to tap into 100% of an available market, made up of 22% of disabled people and 88% of non-disabled people. However, as soon as we use terminology directed at disabled people, this automatically suggests that non-disabled people are unable to participate, reducing our market to 22%. This is further reduced depending on the terminology we choose to use, given there's no absolute consensus on the correct way to describe disabled people collectively. In fact, there's a complete divide. This leaves us with a potential 11% of the market, depending on what terminology you've chosen to use, but it doesn't stop there. Another thing to consider is that even for many disabled people, these terms may carry negative connotations and associations, potentially putting people off who likely appreciate what you're offering, but not the terminology used. There's no data on this, but at an informed guess, I'd say this is about 6% of people, which I'd also like to say feels quite generous. But this leaves us with 8% of the potential market, with it being extremely unlikely that we'll be able to engage all 8%. All in all, using identity-specific terminology excludes a large proportion of your potential market and definitely doesn't encourage inclusion. Another common approach is to use terminology that suggests an environment that disabled people might appreciate, such as all-inclusive or fully accessible. While this may be viewed as a more positive approach, accessibility and inclusion as terms and concepts are subjective and open to interpretation. What's accessible and inclusive for one person may be completely inaccessible and exclude another. Suggesting that these things can be assured given the breadth of needs and preferences you'd have to accommodate is likely to only end in expectations not being met, disappointment and frustration at being overpromised and under-delivered to. They also offer very little detail as to exactly how something has been made accessible or inclusive, and in that detail we may have a way forward. Rather than hedging our bets on catch-all terms that are likely to exclude a large proportion of those we're hoping to engage, or suggest something that cannot be fulfilled, focus on the features and detail of your offer that make it inclusive and or accessible. Shout about your ground floor lift and ramp access, your loop systems and British Sign Language interpreter availability, the fact that your staff have completed disability awareness training, and that your information is available in alternative formats. These are the things disabled people want to know to enable them to make an informed decision as to whether what you're offering is for them or not, while also encouraging a much more measured conversation around where things could be improved. This method of marketing is still targeted and will still appeal to people who associate and look out for terms like disabled, disability and accessible, as they'll still appreciate the features of your offer. But it'll also open it up to those who may appreciate the offer but not specific terminology. It's also unlikely to put off non-disabled people who will likely not acknowledge it at all, just think that sharing this detail is a good thing to do, or may in fact appreciate it themselves. Now, as the title suggests, this video is to encourage inclusion of disabled and non-disabled people, specifically in mainstream places. If you're looking to engage disabled people in things specifically for disabled people, like blind football or wheelchair dancing, it makes sense to use more direct terminology as the activity is specific to them. But in most cases, our offers can and should be made accessible to encourage inclusion between disabled and non-disabled people, and getting our messaging out there in the right way is a good start towards that. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, please do subscribe, like, share and comment below. I'd love to hear from disabled people around what appeals to them from a marketing and comms perspective, and I'd also like to hear from marketing and comms teams to understand what barriers you're facing in engaging disabled people through your messaging. And on that, I hope you all keep well, keep safe, and until next time, take care.